Hi, I'm Rebecca Frisch. I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight. Welcome to the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee.
Bedroom.
Sorry? Okay. CCRA is a 75-year-old nonprofit civic association. As a nonprofit, we encourage everyone to become a member, which can easily be done through our website. There are several benefits to being a member, one of which is being notified of all proposed zoning changes within our area. CCRA is the recognized registered community organization, or RCO, for our area. Our boundaries are from South Street to JFK and Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. This zoning committee works as follows. First, the applicants present. We ask that the applicants address their specific refusals or referrals. Please, no interruptions so that the applicants can give their full presentation. After that presentation, the zoning committee members will have a chance to ask questions. And then once that's complete, we'll open up to the committee questions.
Fran is on.
I asked, is she on the zoning committee?
No, she's just watching it.
Oh,
Everybody is,
Doug's
this is
on.
the full public, this is the full committee meeting. This is the full zoning committee meeting, and we are recording this meeting.
Everybody should mute themselves until they are called on by the chair, Ms. Frisch. Do not speak out.
Thank you, Bob. So then along those lines, we just ask that you try not to interrupt and allow the applicants to give their full presentation. Then we'll have the zoning committee members have a chance to ask questions. And then finally, the community. So when addressed, we ask that you state your name and address, and you keep your questions succinct and in relation to the variance being discussed. Try not to repeat other people's questions. If you agree, you're welcome to state that you agree. And if there's a spokesperson for the neighborhood, just please have that one person speak for the group, raise hand on the app, or just physically raise your hand, and I will see you. So after we hear from all of the applicants and listen to all of the community, we meet in a closed session and we vote in 3 ways: oppose, not oppose, and not oppose with provisos. The CCRA never votes in favor of any application. So, and then our decisions are emailed to the council person, the ZBA, and the applicant, and they're also posted on the CCRA website. One important thing to please note is that no matter how we decide as a committee, if you're concerned with a project, we strongly recommend that you attend the ZBA hearing. This is the best way to make your concerns known. The CCRA zoning committee cannot express the neighbor's point of view. Only a property owner or aggrieved individual may express their personal concerns to the ZBA. So with that said, I would like to get started with today's agenda. And the first item on the agenda for today is 2101 Lombard Street, which is zoned RM1. And the application is for the proposed use change to prepared food shop and existing household living, 2 family dwelling units in an existing structure. There's no change in area or height as part of the application. The reason for the refusal is the proposed use as prepared food shop is expressly prohibited in the RM1 residential zoning district. And with that, I would like to call on the representative for this case.
Thanks, Rebecca. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Alex.
Hey, how are you?
Go ahead.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay. Okay, so my name is Alex Goldberg of Knockhamson PC. I'm the zoning attorney that's working with Liza and Justin Bresson, who are the property owners at 2101 Lombard Street, and their lessee Jezebel Cariaga of Jezebels, which is a known quantity in this city and formerly of this neighborhood. And we're hoping to get zoning relief to be able to bring Jezebel's prepared food shop called Jezebel's back to this neighborhood after its brief hiatus. It was formerly at 26th and Pine. The business was a great member of the community. It supported the local schools and community groups and neighbors. And we're excited, about the process of bringing this back to life in this neighborhood. So I'm going to go through a brief presentation, and then I'll give Jezebel the floor to briefly introduce herself, and then we're happy to answer any questions that you have. And just as a side note, our ZBA hearing is scheduled for September 13th at 2 o'clock. So what you see on your screen here is the front of the property. This is an RM1 property, in zoning classification, but as you can tell by what it looks like, this does not scream out residential on the ground floor. As I'll show in my presentation, the property has a long history of mixed use, as do many of the neighborhood corner properties. We feel that, despite it being zoned RM1, this type of commercial use is appropriate here to go along with the two existing apartments above. So here's the table of contents. We have a notice of refusal, a couple slides about Jezebel's. The use registration permits is sort of that archived history I was just referencing, which I'll walk through. A zoning map and some other maps, photographs of the property and the surrounding area, a very simple floor plan, the RCO meeting notice, the deed, and the application for appeal. So here's the notice of refusal. It was issued in April. As Rebecca mentioned, we're proposing a prepared food shop, which is, in layman's terms, sort of like a coffee shop or a grab and go or an ice cream shop, things of that nature, that are mainly limited by two factors: seating and the lack of ventilated cooking equipment. And we fit in both of those boxes neatly. And as you can see, we're proposing this use in addition to the existing household two-family living above. This is an RM1 property, and we're proposing to convert this ground floor space from a residential space. They were legally renting 3 units to a commercial space. Here's a little bit about Jezebel's. I mentioned that there was a location that existed in what is now Row Home Coffee at 26th and Pine. Jezebel can give more details on the success of that location and the ties to the community, but my understanding was it was a strong connection, and people were very happy to have her and her employees in the neighborhood, and a sort of a unique food option in the neighborhood as well, something a little bit different. Here's just a screenshot. There's a photo of Jezebel. She has another location on 45th Street in West Philly, and does collaborations with different organizations citywide. And this is going to sort of be an outpost for the larger location located in West Philly, which has more capabilities than what's going to be offered here. And then they're known for Argentinian food, such as empanadas, quick breakfasts, coffee, things like that. Here's a previous location at Row Home Coffee. I included this photo, not to get ahead of myself, but I think it shows very nicely this neatly blended in exterior trash container that they had on the side of this building structure, and which we're hoping to do something similar at the proposed location. And I can point out exactly where that would be once we get to those photos. Here's the use registration permits. So again, this property has a long mixed use history. And prior to 1973, it was actually a tire shop and a one-family dwelling. converted to a two-family dwelling and architect's office in 1974. In 1975, it went from two families in a vacant store to two families in an artist studio and a grocery store. Sandwiches takeout only, kind of similar to what we're going for here. And then in 1989, it was converted to an art gallery with two apartments above. Okay, here's a zoning map. So as you can see, we are orange. We're a corner property, RM1. But if you look around at almost all of the other sort of intersections on Lombard and Pine, you can see that they are sprinkled with commercial mixed use, that light pink color. So it's not out of character to have this sort of use on a corner in this neighborhood. We feel like we're actually bringing the use of the property more in character, you know, and we feel like, you know, sort of at face value when you're looking at the property, it also does not appear to be a strictly residential property because it wasn't always that way. All right, here's a Google Maps perspective, located between, you know, right at the corner of Lombard and 21st, between South and Pine Street. Here's some photographs. This is the front of the property from Lombard Street. And this is the side of the property / front of the property from South 21st Street. The building structure goes all the way back here. All of this brick is one building. And then if you can see where my mouse is here, this is where we plan to have an outdoor trash receptacle that would be similar to the one I already showed and painted to blend in. And obviously not obstruct the sidewalk. Here's to the right of the property on Lombard, and to the left, and to the right of the property on South 21st and to the left. So here's the plans and drawings. Again, it's very simple. It's actually by level, but the consumers would be on the first floor to your left here. Along with sort of like a checkout kiosk sort of thing. And also there would be some prep going on up here for things that could be, you know, prepared, you know, as ordered, in addition to a bathroom. And then in the lower level, there's further, you know, prep space and sort of a wash station as well as utilities. Here's the meeting notice, giving notice of this meeting tonight at 7 o'clock with our refusal. We were required to notify 145 properties. This is the list of those properties, and here's those bulk mailing certificates. The deed to the property with Justin and Elizabeth Bresson listed as the owners. And finally, the application for appeal. So if it's okay with you, Rebecca, I'm going to briefly unshare and ask Jezebel to just unmute herself, introduce herself, and fill in any gaps. And then we're happy to take any questions. And Liza's here as well for any questions regarding sort of the ownership of the property.
Great. Yes, please go ahead quickly.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I might know some of you from when my shop was at 26 and Pine. I'm Jezebel Carriaga. I own Jezebel's. I opened at 26 and Pine in 2010. At the end of 2018, we relocated all of our operations to 45th and Walnut. We made it through COVID, but the idea when I left the neighborhood, it was always the story is going to be the comeback for me, coming back to Fiddler Square. Liza, someone on behalf of Liza got in touch with me earlier this year, and we have extensive conversations about what can go into the space. Liza has been extremely careful to make sure like whatever concept we are working on, which is very similar to what we already do, respects also the tenants that there are already in the building. So we have addressed issues like trash receptacles, rodent, which is something that it could happen with any business, but sometimes happens more with food businesses. And the idea is to have a smaller space that is bakery market with some indoor seating, outdoor seating for the neighborhood. We have worked all throughout this time with the Philadelphia School. They are big supporters of what we do. And, you know, we have been good neighbors to the area where we were at, 26 and Pine. There are some neighbors that have seen the whole process while I was running the business at 26 and Pine, like Vivian Mary or Gabrielle Machado, that are on this call. So if you would like to have the opinion of someone else about trash handling, noise, or things like that, I'm sure they will be happy to answer any questions you might have. And at the end of the day, like, we are just looking to have a smaller, more retail shop, like prepared food than what we have actually in West Philadelphia on 45th Street. That is our main commissary kitchen. So we will only be having regular ventless hoods ovens that is to bake throughout the day. And then the prep footprint that the space will have, it will be way smaller than what a regular restaurant or bakery would have, because our main space for preparation is going to be our space on 45th and Walnut. And if any of you have any questions, you can feel free to like look us up online or come to visit us in West Philadelphia. If you have any ideas on how the business, what we offer and what we intend to do coming to Fiddler Square.
Thanks, Jezebel. We're happy to take any questions.
Becca, you're muted.
Yes, I think we'll go ahead and start with anybody from the zoning committee. If anybody from the zoning committee wants to go ahead and raise hand and ask a question. Bob?
Hi, thank you very much, Alex and Jezebel, for a very full presentation. So so you're going to have ovens, you're going to do hot cooking on the premises, I gather, whether it's limited or not based on relative to your other kitchen. You're proposing that you will have cooking on the premises. Is that correct? Yes or no? Yes.
That's correct. No ventilated commercial cooking equipment though. And I
Oh, so
think
you're not going to have ventilation for rooftop exhaust?
No,
Correct.
no, no. We didn't have that when we were at 26 and Pine, and we
I
don't
care
have
about,
that.
we're just interested in this application. So what about hours of operation, 7 days a week, from when to when?
We are working on a similar hours that we are at West Philadelphia. So it will be most likely between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 5 to 6 days a week.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thanks, Bob.
Rebecca, you're muted.
Doug, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Actually, I wanted to ask about Mark, I see he has a question, because I didn't see him on the list of neighbors that were notified. And I'm really confused because you had 326 neighbors that were notified, but none of them were on Lombard or Waverly or Nordane. And I would like to know what was the list about? Was it
Yeah,
seem to be
I'm
apartments?
happy to share it. So here's if you can see my screen, this is the 145 property, sort of 250 square foot radius. And then this is the list of addresses, which includes Lombard and Nordane on here.
Okay, for some reason I didn't see that on mine.
So,
I'm at 2015 Waverly and I did not get a notice.
yeah, I mean, all I can tell you is, we keep it as sterile as possible. We follow the city guidelines to a T. We mail the notices out more than, 10 days in advance, which I think is the bottom line. So we try to shoot for 14 days to 10 days. It's just because of delays in the mail. And, I can assure you that as far as the notice mailings go, we followed the procedure to a T. So I apologize if you didn't receive it and you were an intended recipient.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Wade, please.
Sure, yeah, so I think just for clarification, so this is Wade Albert, counsel for CCRA. Just to follow up on what Doug asked, would represent that the list that you sent the notices to are the same list that you received from the planning commission, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
All right, thanks for that clarification. Is there anybody else from the committee that would like to? All right,
Charles has his
go ahead,
hand.
Charles.
Thank you very much. Just two questions. One, you said there would be no venting and no cooking. That's fine. What was the total square footage, if I may ask? And then could you also please explain the trash storage a little bit more in depth for me, please?
Sure. So the space is 699 square feet. I'm going to reshare the plans. So not a particularly large space. You should be able to see it, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on a second. I apologize. So you can see listed here on these architectural plans, the basement is 362 square feet and the first level is 337 square feet. As far as trash goes, our plan is to implement a similar receptacle to what was located at the previous location, which I'll go back to. So it would be locked and painted to blend in with the facade. And of course, we would agree to commercial trash pickup.
So that's like for 2 toters or 1 toter, or how does it work?
Jezebel, how many, if it were this size, is this 2 large cans in here roughly?
Yeah, that is correct. It's for 2 of them. Or sometimes it's for one large one for trash and 2 blue narrow ones for recycling.
And they would be on 21st Street.
Correct.
So you say the size of, I'm going to guess around 4 feet wide by 4 feet tall.
They are like 4 by, there are 4 wide, approximately 24 to 30 inches on depth. And yes, they're around like 3 feet tall.
Are there any other commercial storages other than the one I visited yours on when you were on Lombard Street. It was more Pine Street. It was very nice. But are there any others besides them you can tell us about having it other than internal trash storage? I'll take it after meeting.
Yeah, I mean, because of the sort of limitations of what's here in terms of the entrances to the other residential dwellings, it would just be in that, well, I should say residential entrances, it's the same structure. It would be in this same location. If the space allows for something a little wider that could fit 3 cans, I'm sure that, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it's stored neatly.
Well, I just wanted to add up to what you said, Alex. Actually, I think 60% of our waste is composted, and that get picked up by Bennett Compost twice a week. And then we only generate at the current space 1 trash can with approximately 4 to 6 trash bags a week. So our footprint is pretty low, and whatever can be recycled, we are extremely careful with that as well.
Charles, before you're done, I don't know your silence is whether you're finished. I just want to footnote to something to make sure there's no confusion. I believe that the applicant said that there was cooking, just no ventilation. I think when you summarized, you said there was no cooking or ventilation. I may have misheard you. Just so there's no confusion about that.
There will be baking. There are new ovens that they have technology that they don't need a hood. So there won't be any vent on the space, but they will be baking and cooking inside ovens. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure it was clear. Thank you. Rebecca, you're muted if you're calling on other members.
Go ahead, Doug.
Sorry to bother.
That's fine.
Go
ahead.
back. How is the trash going from the inside to the trash area? Because I don't think there was a passageway internally.
We will remove the trash cans at the end of the day, and then they will go through the outside. The same way we used to do it at 26 and Pine. Collected at the end of the day, will go right into the receptacle.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else from the committee that would like to ask a question? I thought I saw, Sylvia had her hand raised, but
Yes, but my question was about the cooking and the ventilation, and it was asked by
Okay.
someone else.
okay, great. So then if there's no one else from the committee, I don't see any more hands. Mark, came in, sorry if I said that wrong. If you could, let us know your address and go ahead.
2107-11 Lombard.
Great.
So my wife Joe and I, we have a couple points. One thing I would like some clarification on is where you're proposing the trash. That is not actually adjacent to the leased property. So by the plans that are proposed, that is an entranceway to the apartments, not to the business. The business has no attachments at that location. So, you know, that lends itself to not being actually on the leased property, so to speak, just because the owners own the whole building, that is not part of the space that's being, you know, that's going to zoning for where they propose the trash. So the other question is there is a wall there where they're proposing the trash? Is the trash proposed behind that wall, that entranceway? Or are they talking about building that box on the sidewalk outside that entrance wall?
Yeah,
It would-
can you point to that for us?
It would be outside, you know, like the previous location, painted and blended in, right up flush against the wall right here. It wouldn't be inside. This is a space in here. As far as, you know, the leased premises goes from a zoning perspective, you know, it's a fair question. I understand your point. From a zoning perspective, they're looking at the property as a whole. We have Liza, the property owner, on the call. I'm not sure what the residential tenants leases look like. As far as what spaces are spelled out for them, I would imagine that, you know, on her lease with Jezebel, the location for trash storage would be clearly spelled out. Liza, do you have, you know, any thoughts on how you're going to sort of handle that from a leasing perspective?
I mean, I don't really foresee it being a problem with that tenant. I'm sure they will bring it to my attention if it is. But you know, her space, the entrance to her space is behind that gate. So I don't really see it causing her any issues.
So can I add a separate comment then?
Sure.
Joe Beisky, I've lived in this neighborhood since 1996 and in the house at 2107 11 since 2003. And just my comments are, yes, there are other corners that have retail, but when we buy a place believing that will be protected by zoning laws, and I, for one, oppose having this establishment in this location because it is a residential block. We're only one property away. We did not get notice. We only heard about this through our neighbors, which is problematic in and of itself. And I don't know how many of you are on that block in the morning, but this is a prime pedestrian commuter zone for kids going to the Philadelphia school, for kids going to the Greenfield school, and for people going to Penn. It's congested with pedestrians, dog walkers, and children from about 7 in the morning till 9:30 in the morning every day, and then again in the afternoon. It's got a problem with the right turning lane where 21st Street goes down to one lane at Lombard Street. So, cars are backed up there trying to turn, trying to merge into one lane and trying to turn right. And the sidewalk itself is really congested. So trying to add tables there onto the sidewalk seems problematic, and increasing, any kind of congestion there in a residential block is also problematic. So I just, rise to object to any variance in the zoning for that block.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I understand your concern as in your neighbor. As far as the sidewalk goes, any future seating would have to be approved via the right-of-way unit, which I believe is in the streets department. So, and we don't want to sort of impede anyone's access on Lombard Street or South 21st Street. So if the city deems that we can't have tables without doing that, then we won't be able to have tables. That's up for them to determine. And, I understand, when purchasing the property, it was contemplating what was here. That's why we're asking for zoning relief. We feel like from a historical perspective, from a, purely aesthetic perspective, and just a fit in the neighborhood that, we feel like this makes sense here, but I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. Good point. I'm going to go ahead and call on the next community member, Michelle Bluvman.
Hi. Yeah, this is actually Dave Bluvman, Michelle's husband. Michelle's on
Okay.
as well.
Okay, hi. Can you just tell us your address, please?
Yeah, we live at 420 South 21st Street. So in the shot you have up now, it's the White House with the green shutters, immediately adjacent, immediately next door to this property on 21st Street. So yeah, with regard to the trash location, I object to that pretty strongly. First of all, Liza mentioned that, yes, her tenant, there's that green door on 21st Street there, and there's a little outdoor space before you get to the apartment door of her tenant there. These trash receptacles would actually be closer to Michelle's and my front door, the green front door there, next to the plants, next to where you're proposing a trash receptacle. We've lived in the neighborhood we've been in this house for 10 years. I'm also on the board of a condo association about half a block away at 525 South 21st Street, where we happen to park a vehicle. And we recently had a board meeting for that association where there were some people living in one of the condos on Rodman Street who built a similar trash receptacle, very nicely built wooden trash receptacle, painted to blend with the wall. And, unfortunately it had to be removed because I don't know the exact zoning, but I just know that we're not allowed to have any kind of enclosed outdoor trash receptacle on that block. There's no alleyway leading through my house. So, every week when my wife or I take out the trash, we bring it through the house. I don't see any reason why, first of all, this particular property needs to have outdoor trash receptacles like that. I don't see why another solution can't be found to store the trash inside and then bring it out when it needs to be brought out for collection. You know, if it does need to be outside, I definitely don't want it in that location personally, being the immediate neighbor to where you've shown, you know, that you want to put those trash receptacles. You've got, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with them being on 21st Street if they have to be somewhere, but I think they should either be, you know, if you can see that railing that covers sort of, I guess, like an egress window or something there below the window to the actual location where Jezebel is proposing to be. There's a nook right there there's a nook between that railing and the set of stairs that also belongs to this property there with the double door where there are also tenants upstairs. So I would suggest putting it right there, and then it's completely enclosed within your property and not butting up against mine. Or just don't put anything outside at all.
Yeah, I think that I understand. I think, you know, if it makes sense, I mean, if it's viable to fit the trash cans right here, I don't have the exact measurement of this width. I don't see why that would be an issue. Or even, you know, I know that this space here is only slightly better than this space here. But so long as we can fit the appropriate receptacle, because we would like to keep them outside, because it's easier for pickup that way. I don't see why we couldn't keep them here or here. So that's definitely something that we'll explore.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And when you say here or here, I just want to repeat
Sorry.
that, no, that I really only like one of those heres that you pointed out, which is that one. You've got 2 planters there.
Yep.
There's plenty of room there for you to fit 2 32-gallon wheeled toters side by side in an enclosure. If you need to move your railing or something that you have there, I have absolutely no doubt that you can fit 2 side by side, maybe even larger than 32-gallon toters there. And if you need something larger side by side, or you can't fit something larger side by side, you've got enough space there with the way your egress window comes out that you can figure out some kind of design to put your trash receptacles there. Personally, I don't want them anywhere along that other wall that you initially suggested, even closer, even closer in the other direction. I mean, if you can find some other place other than what I'm suggesting, fine, but I don't
Yeah.
personally want them on
I
that
think-
wall there.
I think
No.
that's a really, really good point. And in fact, the zoning committee does already have some restaurant provisos, which do address trash, and generally we are opposed to trash outside. So I guess I would ask Alex if that is something that the applicant would consider, would be coming up with a place to keep this trash inside.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yes, it's absolutely something that we'll consider. Yes.
Okay, that's great.
This is Michelle, also in the same property. I have a couple other questions and points of clarification. You mentioned that the city decides whether tables can go outside or not. Can you speak to that process? And
Yeah.
if you were to put tables outside, where would they go?
So I can even share my screen. I think that would be even more helpful. So we'd have to obtain what's called the sidewalk cafe license. You can apply for them through Eclipse or at the MSB building. You need to have several different licenses and tax ID numbers. Basically, it would have to be approved by the right-of-way unit. There's a licensing fee and a renewal fee. And you're required to submit a plot plan, you know, an architecturally drawn plan that ensures that you have the proper clearances from, I'm not an architect, but the proper clearances from doorways, from corners, I would imagine, from sidewalks, crosswalks, things like that. So she would have to retain someone to draw plot plan, you know, that would not encroach any of the right-of-way units sort of requirements. And that would, that would happen, if we were to obtain the variance, that would happen after the fact.
Okay. And is there anything that you see that is there restrictions on how close it can be to residences? Like, could a table technically butt up right next to a residence next door?
I don't believe so, but I don't want to say definitively because, I just, I don't have a definitive answer to your question, so I don't want to say yes or no.
Okay.
But I don't think it could. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
That's fine. And the only other, it's more of a concern, just because we've lived on that corner for 10 years, and I think our neighbors can also attest to that. It's kind of a dangerous corner. That traffic light and the tree in front of 2101 gets replaced. I'm not exaggerating, twice a year because a car gets hit. A car breaks there. The brand new large houses that are being built right now, they've already been run into once. So I'm just, it's a high traffic, just like what Joe said, it's a very high traffic and a pretty dangerous corner. And I'd be concerned for pedestrian safety. And I guess that's all that I wanted to say.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. I think your points are well taken. Anish, can you tell us your address, please?
Yeah, hi everyone, 2103 Lombard. So in that first shot, we are right next door around the corner. So I guess to build a little bit on the thread of what Michelle was just saying, I actually want to also say I think Jezebel is a great place. My concerns are about anything going into this that's not residential. A few points, just quickly, do these machines, these baking machines, do they require sprinklers in case of a fire? And so is that unit already equipped with sprinklers?
None of the equipment requires sprinklers because these are electrical units. There is no gas on site. The moment that you add gas to a kitchen, you need to have a sprinkler system. And all of this is new technology that they are extremely insulated. They don't produce as much heat or anything like that.
Gotcha. I guess because they're new technology, it actually concerns me more than perhaps older, more reliable, like things that we've tested before. So I guess, I don't know, from a zoning perspective, if closed food shops need sprinkler systems in case of fires, that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, they're not allowed, prepared food shops are not allowed to have commercial cooking equipment that requires ventilation. So from from a zoning perspective, so that just,
while I understand ventilation, I'm asking about sprinklers, I guess, to be concrete. My concern being fire being next door.
I hear you. Gotcha.
Okay. Sorry. I would just like to keep going here.
Okay, sorry. I just have two other questions. Could you comment? I think Michelle asked it, but I wanted to be clear. Where would these outdoor tables go if approved?
So if approved, they would go, in front of sort of our building structure, and I guess it's ultimately up to Jezebel and what's approved, but I would imagine, in theory, there's space for tables on Lombard Street and 21st Street. That's all with the caveat that they have to be approved by the right-of-way unit.
Thank you. I want to reiterate, so I'm a physician. I've literally pulled people out of cars that have come up onto those exact spaces.
Okay.
So my concern is also for people, if they're sitting there, their safety, because it is, unfortunately, people whip around that corner and large trucks attempt to make that turn, so much so that you can see the tire marks on the corner of 21st and Lombard. So much so that I don't let my children really stand in that area. And so that is a real concern. And then my last is more of a question rather than a concern. Going back to the trash storage conversation, I'm not a professional with zoning or things like, but those addresses are actually different addresses, and so I don't understand how that works, because they're listed as like 420, 422 on 21st Street, and so I just didn't understand. It's really a question of like, literally when you walk by, there's different numbers there, and so I didn't, maybe someone could provide clarification.
Excuse me,
I'm
Alex.
not sure what the question is there.
I think if I may, I think.
No,
that-
Alex, you may not, it's up to the chair whether you may. The question is, have you spoken, has your applicant spoken to these neighbors? And this is not really the forum for all the personal conversations to be repeated over and over again. It doesn't seem like you've had a pre-meeting with any of these neighbors about all these questions.
I'm the property owner and I've spoken with all of them.
Oh, so you've spoken to everybody in this,
I
okay.
have everyone that's commented so far I've spoken to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And they must know the answers. Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
wait a minute. Yeah, we spoke with her, but she didn't mention anything about the location of outdoor trash receptacles. I didn't know there would be any outdoor trash receptacles at all, let alone that the plan was to put them right next to our house. So yeah, that's why the questions are coming up.
Okay, I would like to just go ahead and just finish out with the rest of the community members, but to Bob's point, we don't want to have too much back and forth. So if you have a question that's already been discussed, I would ask that you try not to restate, even if you do agree or disagree with somebody. Just try to keep it to new questions and matters that are related to zoning. To that point, I think Gail was the next person with her hand raising. Can you tell us your full name and your address, please?
Hi, Gail Gizmondi, 2106 Naldane Street. I have a question about future uses. Right now, it says that it's prepared food. Exactly what happens in the future if this tenant decides to leave? What kind of a business can go in there?
It would be the same, the zoning variance would be for the property and it would be of the same use. It would be prepared food regardless of the owner.
Okay, does that mean that they could sell beer?
No.
No.
I don't think so, no.
And they can't,
Different use.
so it wouldn't be a kind of shop like the one that's at 21st and Locust, which also has some prepared food and a convenience store kind of thing, because they said a convenience store could also go in there. He made a mention of that at the beginning.
Wade, do you know that answer?
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the last part of that question? I
I was
apologize.
asking if we were to approve this variance and it were to remain a prepared food shop, but with a different owner, would they be able to turn it to a convenience store with that use and therefore sell beer?
Oh, gosh. I mean, first off, any request to sell beer would have to go through the Liquor Control Board, is my understanding. And you would see a little orange I believe you would see a little orange placard and have the ability to protest the license. I'm not 100% sure if it's the same use.
Yeah, so the code definition of prepared food shops specifically says non-alcoholic beverages.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
But Alex, I think the question is that it's the same use would be allowed for basically a subsequent owner could operate a convenience store if this variance is granted. Is that right?
Technically, yeah, if they fit within the definition of prepared food shop, which requires you to have between 3 and 20 seats, which typically convenience stores don't have any seats, but I guess if one did, then it could be classified as prepared food shop.
Thank you.
What the code describes as a prepared food shop, I'm just reading, is sandwich shops, delis, coffee shops, ice cream shops. Those are the examples they give. Obviously, that's not fully inclusive.
Great, thank you. Gail, did you have any other questions?
My husband wants to know, vape shops would be out then, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dave Torak, if you could state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Dave Turek. We're at 2052 Lombard. We've been here since
I have
2004.
20 questions that they have.
I'm sorry, can you hear me or no?
Yes.
Yes. go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes, 2052 Lombard. So we're diagonally across from the proposed change down a couple doors. Not to repeat many of the points which we agree with, and we oppose the changed variance, especially since any other tenant could be a use which is less desirable, or a tenant that's less desirable. But two questions. One is prepared food tends to generate what I would call walking trash. So people would tend to eat and walk and have trash within several blocks radius. And in light of the CCRA pilot program with the trash cans, is there any proviso for helping deal with that problem?
No, I don't think that's really, no, not at this time, but I don't know if that's relevant to this specific case, but it is a good point, but I think that's more of a matter of the street trash and not necessarily this particular
Okay.
case.
And then just to add an additional point onto the traffic issue, if you look at other prepared foods such as the rival coffee house down the street at 24th and Lombard, takeout food tends to generate a lot of illegal and dangerous stopping and parking in places where there is no legal parking. We happen to have a long stretch of garages right across the street where people park all the time, and it causes a lot of mayhem. But especially on that corner and near that corner, it would be disastrous based on what people have said before.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we do fortunately have a no stopping at any time sign directly in front of the property. That obviously doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah, I think that your point is well made, just and similar to the others. So thank you very much.
Right, thanks.
Bill, Kay, do you mind telling us your address?
Yeah, sorry for the multiple presences here. Just had a computer problem, but I'm Bill Clerk. I live at 2063 Lombard, so right across from the proposed variance. And I'm not gonna waste people's time. Everything that the immediate neighbors have said, particularly with the traffic, is absolutely true. I work from home. I see this corner 12 hours a day. This is just going to be bedlam for the double parking. I mean, the Jezebel's in the West Philly location, which I picked up empanadas from, is just a prime example of that. And as much as I love the empanadas, this is I have major concerns about what the traffic is what's going to happen with the traffic, with the double parking, and the anger that engenders, and the people going around it and flying through the crosswalk. And it's like I said, I agree with everything, all the concerns raised, as well as the ones, what's there after Jezebel. So this house, and I can speak for a few of the other row homes next to me, are also opposed to this idea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being concise about it. That's well said. Terry Clark, if you could state your address.
Yes, hello, good evening. Terry Clark, 2117 Tryon Street. And I'm here with my partner, Rob Swartley. And we just want to go on record by saying that we agree that we oppose the proposed changes in variance for all the reasons that we've heard tonight. So Rob, did you want to add anything?
No, I agree. Especially the traffic issues it will cause, and future tenants, where changing the zoning will make different kinds of tenants more likely.
Yeah, and it really opens the door. We've seen the creeper effect in this neighborhood. And so you open the door to a non-residential zoning, and anything is possible. And the question no one has asked is why we're even having this discussion, that you couldn't, leave it as a residential and rent it out to a residential space. I don't, it's probably beyond the scope of this discussion, but nobody has asked that question.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a fair point. I think that is the whole purpose of this committee, is to have things that are not illegally allowed by zoning, And if an owner would like to ask for an exception, a variance, then it is up to us, the CCRA zoning committee, to understand what the neighborhood's position on that is. And it sounds like we're hearing loud and clear that the neighbors are in very much opposition to this. And that is, I think, a great segue, a great summary to close this out, because I don't see any more raised hands from the community. And I just
So
encourage
just,
everybody that's here to make sure that you are able to attend the ZBA hearing. We're going to go ahead, I think, and close this for now for the full session and move on to the next case. And we'll speak about it in closed session as just the zoning committee members, and take all the community positions into consideration as part of our decision, and our recommendation to the ZBA. And Alex, can you remind everyone here what the ZBA hearing date is, please?
Sure, our ZBA hearing date, let's go back to my notes, is on September 13th. One more thing before we leave, if there are concerns about what would happen with a potential future owner, like, a 5-year temporary variance, which would limit the variance, put it basically an expiration date on it, is something that we would consider, if the neighborhood group was so inclined.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. Okay, great. So then, yeah, thank you very much for a very thorough presentation, and thank you to the community for voicing your opinions. I think that it would be good to go on to the next case right now, which is 1953 Locust Street. There are 2 units here in question. If the presenter would like to go ahead and begin. Christy, are you here tonight? Christy, I don't see you. I don't see Christy. I do see a new raised hand. Patricia, did you mean to raise your hand?
I just want to be recognized when you get to community questions.
For the next case?
For this case, the one we're on now, the 1953.
Yeah, I am not seeing the applicant here to make the presentation, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to hear the case. I'll give it maybe another minute or so. I'm going through the whole list of attendees. I'm not seeing the applicant.
May I make a comment then? And that's something I sent an email to Wade Albert. I'm not sure if he saw it or not. When you're communicating with the applicant, assuming they want to come back, perhaps review with them the neighbors to whom they are giving notice. And the reason I'm mentioning that is I know we have that 250 feet rule, and I live at the Dorchester. And Dorchester is an L-shaped building. I'm actually, my unit looks across the street at this. And so,
Patricia, I'm one of the lawyers on the committee. That's the planning commission's responsibility. We cannot accept any responsibility for how they notify or who they notify. So we share your concern as residents, but it's totally up to the applicant and to work legally with the city.
okay, so the point I'm trying to make is, I know the city gives them a list of people to notify. And I gather it's provided to you at some point. The reason I'm raising this at all is I think there could be an issue here with notice, in the sense that the city may or may not be requiring them to notify the Dorchester. And I live right across the street from this property.
I think that is understood, but unfortunately, as Bob mentioned, that isn't really in this committee's purview, but I would encourage you to go ahead and email Wade about that if you have any further questions. He will be able to help direct you to the right people. And it looks like we're not going to be speaking about that case tonight because we don't have the presenter. So I'm going to go ahead and just ask that the community members please go ahead and leave the Zoom so that we can continue our closed session to speak about the case that we heard. And Thank you very much, everyone.
Trying to.
CR, is that you, Charles? Are you coming up as CR?
That's Charles.
Okay, just want to make sure because I don't see a picture.
So we didn't get introduced.
Michelle, I would like you to go ahead and, hold on, I need to get rid of some people. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were only the committee here. That's
Want
left
to
is
kill
we
that
can see any
recording as
board
well?
names. Yep, let me get rid of the recording. Thank you for the reminder.